Yes, I like hearing the claps when you mention the school. Okay. Now, yet behind the accomplishment, the awards and the boardrooms and the public image lies another story. For more than 2 decades, Francis had lived with depression, anxiety disorder, panic attacks, and chronic insomnia. While many saw confidence, leadership, and success, he was often fighting private battles that few could see and ever understand. Tonight's conversation is not about success, it's about resilience. It's about what happens when a person learns to carry immense responsibility while wrestling with invincible struggles. It's about faith, vulnerability, acceptance, perseverance, and the courage to speak openly about mental health in a society where silence is often easier than honesty. This evening, Francis invites us behind the smile to look beyond appearances and into the realities of living, leading, and thriving despite mental health challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me as we welcome Francis Kobena Addison with a round of applause. You are very welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, says I didn't introduce myself. I am Apsu Seth Asafo. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, like I said, today is a special day, and also because this falls in the month of mental health awareness, I think it's in order for us to give a few, tidbits about mental health so that we all know where we are. Now, for the longest time as a mental health professional, one of the things I notice is every time you say mental health, there's a word that comes to our minds. True or false? Typically, we all think about something.
Madness.
Madness. And there's a joke he's told me, and I'm sure he'll say it as we go ahead. But this is the reality. Mental health encompasses far more than just that. So there are other overlooked aspects of mental health that relates to the way we feel. And most of us are not in tune with our feelings. For example, that very angry partner, boss, colleague, child may also be within the mental health related challenge component, or being extremely shy. And I'm very shy, so I'm struggling as I'm here, but I'm here. Or that being extremely fearful, all fall within the remit of mental health. It also looks at how we handle stress, the kind of relationships we have, and the lifestyle choices that we make. In the modern times, people make a lot of boast and say things like, all this year I've only slept 2 hours, with excitement as a badge of honor. But that's a lifestyle choice that directly affects your mental health. Just to add on, mental health is not an absolute state, and I'd like to liken it to what physical health is. There are days that we wake up, we don't feel 100%, but we're not sick. So if you think about physical health in the same way as mental health is like a ladder. Look at it as a continuum, and there are things you can do to enhance your mental health, and there are things that you can also do that makes your mental health decline. And today, the story of resilience will highlight all of that, as well as give us some of the tools that we can use to make sure that our mental health is thriving. We're not looking for surviving, but we want us to thrive. So, what are the quickest ways to enhance our mental health? And I'll mention the free ones first. Mind you, if you don't use them, you'd have to come and see some of us, and we'll make sure that we collect you as much as we can. And they are free. Number one, sleep. How many hours of sleep are we getting lately? On average, if anyone could just tell me, because I know majority of us are getting less than 6 hours of sleep. Anyone getting more than 6 hours? Well done, but clearly. So, not sleeping well affects our mental health in very significant ways. And because it's tabled for the discussion, I will not drink the soup just yet. So I will continue. Then we look at exercising or keeping physically active as something that also helps our mental health. For those of us that work out, you may notice that you have motivation for days. You wake up in the morning, you exercise, and there's a motivation that's just there and transcends other aspects of your life. And this is important because it helps with a chemical that usually, I'm not going to sound too technical, but that chemical makes you feel motivated. It's not just about the exercise, but in other aspects of life. And then the last one is the diet, what we're eating. Now, it turns out that from research, the best foods for mental health are fruits, nuts, vegetables, and proteins that are rich in omega-3. And it's interesting to know that most of the time, we tend to crave a lot of junk when we're feeling particularly stressed. And that's because there's a deficit, or we lose a lot of, they say, sugars. So the quickest way to get those sugars back is the junk foods and the foods that are high in the oils, which tends to do that job very quickly. So these are 3 free things. The last one has to do with expressing. Technically, women outlive men by 5 years simply because they express. They express. So some people say gossiping, I say expressing. And I'm going to do something. When I start playing musical instruments, every man that has a challenge and they use the same thing, what's the problem? You hear, Now imagine 5 men doing I'll play an instrumental in the background. And we'll our way to the graves. But that's not going to happen with us today, because today we're going to learn some of the resources of why it's important to do these things for our mental health. Are we excited already? Okay. Then let me go to the man of the moment. And I've already welcomed him, but I want to ask a very specific question. So beyond or behind all the things that people know about you, who is Francis Kobena Addison?
I think that we'll go back to APSU. Once you said APSU, we should say action.
Nkote. Action Nkote.
Action Nkote. And Doc spoke about a joke that when I first met him, I said I will share that joke. It's, I'm sure it's about, give and take, about 17 years ago. And when my problem started, my wife and I went to the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. And I was in suit, tie, well-dressed, sharp. And I was sitting there, and the cleaners came, they cleaned up, and there was a whole line of patients waiting. And we had waited for about 30 minutes, getting to 45 minutes, and this lady woke up and came to me and said, Doc, one sorry in corner, yeah, chair. And my wife was sitting by me, and my wife told the lady, oh, come home. So that's the joke Doc was talking about, Okamuhu. So Okamuhu became a phrase in our house. Anytime I'm low, I hear my wife shouting, Okamuhu. Then I know that it's time to snap out of that depression. So that's the joke. And who's Kobena Addison? Of course, I do have a brain as wild as the wild stallion, always moving around, very difficult to curb and control. But on a serious note, I think that I am a man trying to stay emotionally present for my family, which is a big ask for me. Every day is a big challenge trying to stay emotionally present for my family. When it comes to my friends, those who've shown me affection, they will tell you that I also struggle to show affection the same way I get it. I've been lucky, I get a lot of affection. I struggle to show the same affection. I'm sure if my brother was here, he would tell you that as a brother, I'm just so unpredictable. And if my mom was here, I'm sure she's watching. She says, look, I had only 2 children, but you just don't conform. So my mom will tell you that I don't conform. But more importantly, as a leader, I struggle every day to hide my feelings because a lot of people are looking up to me. And that, for me, has been my life ever since I put a name to how I was struggling, what was making me struggle. As a leader, every day, no matter how difficult it is, after a whole night when I have not slept, I still have to put up that face. I still have to struggle because a lot of people are looking up to me. And that's me. That's been my life for so many years. What most people see is structure. What most people see is success. Most people see is achievement. But really, the truth is, it's daily struggle, it's pain, it's depression, it's anxiety, it's panic attack, it's hopelessness sometimes, it's full of fear. And what I struggle to say all the time is, many times, self-harm has crossed my mind. So the whole idea of self-harm, the whole idea of self-harm that crosses my mind all the time is what I. The days that I think the days that you see me laughing hard and smiling hard, most likely are those days that I'm struggling most. You still always have to put a front. You have to put a front because your kids are watching you, your staff members are watching you, your friends are watching you. So I think in a nutshell, that's me. This has gone on for so many years, and that's me.
Wow. Definitely behind the smile, a lot's been going on, a lot's still going on, but you're still here. Now, I am psyched to hear the story because within our field is the perception that usually when someone struggles with mental health challenges, it's like a death sentence and nothing else can come out of them. But this definitely tells a different story, and of course it's a story of resilience. But Senior, I'll keep referring to him as Senior. I am also intrigued to understand why now? Why tell the story now? What has been your motivation to tell us that this is what I've been dealing with behind the struggle, behind everything that everyone else sees?
Why now? Maybe Debate House forced me to do it because it's the last day of the mental health month, and literally I was ambushed to do it. But why now? First and foremost, I don't seek pity, and I don't want anyone to leave here having pity on me. I do not seek pity at all. I'm doing this because I want people to understand me, and I want people to understand the struggles of mental health patients. I do not seek empathy. I do not seek sympathy, right? I want everyone to know that I'm responsible for my actions. And no one should use mental health to justify my shortcomings. Right. So I do not seek pity, but it's also important to know that sometimes what you see as arrogance, what you see as rude, would be someone who is in self-preservation, who's protecting the last energy in him. What you see as I'm distant, what you see as I'm difficult, is the person who is looking for it to go home and unfortunately is anxious that evening he wouldn't sleep. And that's why I'm doing this. So I'm not seeking pity, I'm not seeking sympathy, I'm not seeking any form of empathy. But I'm doing this because I want people to understand my struggles and the struggles of most mental health patients. It's also important to say that mental health has dealt a tremendous blow or pain to me personally and professionally. But I have to do this because I've reached a point where silence is heavier than being transparent. I've reached a point where it's important to talk about this because of stigmatization. I mean, I drive around and you see all the health facilities, and I don't think anybody here can point us to a private mental health clinic. There are some, but maybe because you are not as smart as me, you don't know where they are. But I'm sure all of you would point to I'm sure all of you will point to where the fertility clinics are, where the hypertension clinics are, where the all those clinics. But none of you can point to a mental health clinic, and it's simply because of stigmatization. I also think that it's important to do this because I sit at a place at the corporate ladder where mental health issues need to be discussed at company level. And if I don't speak about this, most other executives will not be compelled to speak about this. I'm also doing this to encourage people to seek help. I sought help, and the first time I sought help was out of default. I didn't intend to seek help, but I sought help and I got medication, and medication works. So I'm doing this to also let people know that medication does help. Right. Really, there's really not much to gain out of this, but if at the end of the day one more person decides that I will seek help, then I think that I've been successful. And that's why, Doc, I'm doing this.
Thank you so much. This is rather profound. It's really profound. Really profound. There's nothing more exciting than someone who's experienced firsthand telling you what it is. And just to lighten the room, I remember when we were in the university, during the first year, everybody would attempt to do international any work, you see. And for those of us who couldn't make it, when the buggers came, we had to ask, how did it go? And you hear all the terminologies and of course, we picked up some of the words. Charlie, when I was at Sainsbury, making, we've never been there before. And it's so interesting that he's going to tell us the story of something that I presume I see every day, but I can never live his experience. I can only attempt to imagine what it's like. And to have other people listen will go a long way to break the stigma for us, and that is something that is awesome. I will take us to another question, and then I will do something special for all of us. But I would like to also know, what you're going through, you seem to be very insightful of now. But when it started, what are some of the things that perhaps might have been the basis for why you noticed or you started to experience mental health challenges? We would say that issues like trauma have a significant impact on whether you develop or demonstrate or show mental health challenges later. Did you experience anything like that?
I did. And of course, when I started struggling, I also had to understand why I'm going through all this. So you had to meet therapists, you had to meet psychologists, psychiatrists, and of course, mapping up my childhood to where I was and where I will be. And I still remember, and I remember the date very well because it was a significant date. It was 10th December 1983, and I woke up and there was a lot of movement in the house, and young man as I was 9 years. It was my birthday that day, and I thought they were having a birthday party for me. So I got more excited. By midday, there was engagement. By 4 p.m., there was a wedding. By 6 p.m., I was mommy's boy. Mommy was married and gone.
Wow.
And that evening, I was wondering what was going to happen. And my grandma pointed that they'd laid the bed on the floor and that's where I'll be sleeping now. And this is the guy that has been sleeping with my mom forever. And let me say this. My mom was 43. She had 2 abortive relationships. She had 2 sons with 2 different dads. So I don't fault my mom's decision. Most people would have done that, would have left. But the truth about it is, it brought a very deep sense of betrayal. It brought a very deep sense of betrayal. And that deep sense of betrayal was because I was not intellectually developed to understand that what she was doing was not a big deal. And it stayed with me for a very long time. The questions I asked always was, why didn't she discuss it with me? Why did she choose my birthday? And it so happened that it was a Saturday and it was December and she had to do the wedding before Christmas. And the woman was in love, so of course, you can't blame her. But that, I believe, was the first major trauma. It brought a lot of insecurity to me. It made me feel that you just couldn't trust anyone, because this was the only person I trusted. This was the person I slept with. This was the person I knew. You just couldn't trust anyone.
So, Simeon, just because it's mental health awareness, I would like to, push some perspective. So we do know one thing for a fact, that people may have predispositions to mental health related challenges. All they require is a necessary trigger, something that's stressful enough. And to say this even lightly, I'm sure we all know somebody who was thriving until something major happened. They lost a relationship, lost a loved one, lost a job, were attacked by thieves. And then suddenly we say they lost it. And I think, as he mentions, the change was so drastic. And for the little mind, I mean, with children especially, what we do know is they do not have the same coping resources that we have. So the processing was obviously very difficult and very stressful. Please.
I had no option. But a few weeks later, Christmas Day, after a Christmas party, I was told that when the party's over, you go with your uncle. So I had to pack my things, moved to my uncle's house. And for me, that's my saving grace, because the house was structured. We sat at the table, breakfast, lunch, dinner. We ate dessert after meals. The first time I had to play with Lego. The house was structured. It was the prototype of a stable family. And for me, that's my saving grace. That had a long-lasting imprint on my life. But it did not change that betrayal. It did not change that betrayal. Let me say this, and once again, I'd want to repeat. If I found myself in my mom's position, I would do whatever she did. She did the right thing for herself. It is how I processed it. It is the fact that I did not have the capacity to accept that betrayal, that emotional break that caused the problem. But then again, straight from that, I saw stability. I saw what I would have loved as a family. It did not take that insecurity, that betrayal away. But it brought some sense of, it's not that bad. You can always know that it's better somewhere. Remember, I was 9 years. Stayed with my uncle. Had the best time of my life, and I mean it, best time of my life. Wrote common entrance, went on, and after common entrance, what happens? And you need to know that all this time I had not lived with my dad. So after common entrance, doing well in common entrance, my eldest auntie, Mrs. and may she rest in peace, God bless her soul, Auntie Teresa, felt that it was time to meet my dad. So it took me one morning to see my dad. And we drove to my dad's place, and he told my dad that this is an opportunity to make up. The guy you have not seen the guy in ages, and this is an opportunity to make up. This is an opportunity to show that you are a father. And this old man went ballistic. This old man literally still kept to her guards that if your mother will not allow you to come and stay with me and for me to bring you up the way I want to bring you up, I don't have anything to do. I don't want to have anything to do with you. And I had never met him. So it was all sitting, watching, and the whole thing panned out. And my auntie said, then let's go back. And so that was, for me, the second major trauma. I think what could have been an opportunity of pride, warmth, acceptance from my father was just turned into something else. That, of course, with time, speaking to therapists, have identified that that is also a big deal, and coming up straight up from what you felt was wrong. Right. That was hard to take, believe me. That was hard to take. But we went on, we went to secondary school, Form 1, and tragedy happened. And this time, my best friend, my cousin, Hootman, passed. So all these things happened in a space of 2.5 years. And it has always, unfortunately, made me feel nothing is permanent. It has always made me have trust issues, right? For me, till this date, love is conditional. Even your parents necessarily do not have to give you permanent love. Love is conditional. Love is fragile. For me, love is fragile. That love was capable of disappearing any time. Love was capable of disappearing any time. Good or bad, bad. But that is how the DNA has been built. That is how the nervous system processed it. So these are three major traumas that I faced growing up. Like I say, in the case of my mom's son, I mean, women are here. At 43, if you met the love of your life, I mean, who cares? I mean, you will move on, true or false. So, someone says false, but I don't blame her at all. I don't blame her at all.
You know, the interesting thing about all that he discusses about the pivotal mommy's leaving, Hootman's passing, and then the experience with dad, is that there was no opportunity to talk about it. And so just because it's mental health awareness also, I like you to know that when things hurt, you must express. The more you express, the lighter the load gets internally. And because they weren't expressed, they were cooking in there. And I'm sure that these became significant triggers for why you went into like full-blown episodes such as this. So for all of us, expression is important. Now,
I think even with Hootman's death, I mean, what happened was, one Monday morning, Hutman says, I'm not well, so I'm going home. And Hutman's older brother is taking him home. Then 1.5 weeks later, 2 weeks, after lunch in school, we see my auntie and my mom in black, and Hutman is dead. So we all come home for the funeral on a Friday, and on Monday, you are packed back to school. For me, it was handled poorly. With hindsight, it was handled poorly. And we didn't have an opportunity to talk about it. I don't know how the others are coping, but of course, it was difficult.
Yeah. And to us parents, our children need to express. We need to create the environment for them to be able to talk about what they feel. Even if it doesn't make sense, the fact that they express it is good enough. So let's take this away. Now, I want us to take a little break and then we'll come back, but we're going to do something special. We're going to learn how to breathe to calm down the nervous system. And you can sit or you can stand, but I want you to put one hand on your chest and put another hand on your stomach, okay? And you're going to follow my voice. So, breathe in, and out. Hi. Let's go again. Breathe in, and out. I am sad to say that majority of us aren't breathing well. That's the reality. So breathing well means when you're taking full breaths, or what we call diaphragmatic breathing, it's your stomach that should move first. So if you find that your chest this is not chest out. Okay? If you find that your chest is going more than your stomach, you're really not breathing well. Now, the reason why breathing works is that on every exhale, you bring out a lot of carbon dioxide. That's number one. The second thing is, the longer the exhale, the more relaxing you feel. So every time you attempt to breathe to calm yourself down, exhale as much as you can. I wonder if yesterday, any Arsenal fans here? I didn't see Angel Gabriel breathing out when he was playing his penalty. He would have calmed the system down and would have played the ball from a logical standpoint. Forgive me, but however you like it, I don't care. We are Chelsea fans too here. So that's breath work for us. So let's try another one. But here, try to take the breath from your belly before your chest. Let's try that. And the way to know you're doing it very well is that you start to yawn afterwards. So let's try again, all right? One hand on your stomach, one hand on your chest. Breathe in and out. We are trying now. Let's do it again. Breathe in and out. And make sure the exhale is longer. Don't breathe out. No, that's not what we're looking for. All right. So this is one of the things that you can do when she's yawning. It means that she did it very well. So this is one of the things that you can do when you're feeling particularly overwhelmed. Breath work is amazing. Whenever we feel stressed, we tend to breathe in much faster. And that sends a signal to the brain to say there's actually something wrong. But when you breathe and you calm your breathing to what it's like when you are sleeping, then it sends a counter message that says false alarm. There's nothing wrong. So breath work actually works. Okay. Back to you, Senior. So, Senior, I know that a central presentation in what you have dealt with was panic attacks or panic attacks. I'd like for you to tell me more about that. For many of us who don't know what panic attacks are, I would let him first tell us his experience, and then from a psychological standpoint, try to explain why panic attacks even occur and what you can do to manage your panic attacks. Thank you.
Panic attacks. Well, if I was to define panic attacks, I would say it's taught me one lesson. you are never in charge. You are never in charge. So there's always should be a plan B. And so you see my book here, everything is here, but there's plan B here. And I think that I would first talk about when I could put a name on how I was feeling before I talk about my first panic attack. So, you know those days when you go for a visa and you are successful, they tell you to come a certain day for your passport. So I was told to come a certain day for my passport, and I got to the High Commission for my passport. And just before I was called, my heart started racing. I felt a deep sense of fear. There was no obvious danger, nothing dramatic around me. I felt a deep sense of fear. Unfortunately, a few minutes later, my bladder gave up. And all this, I was sitting there, and eventually I heard my name, and I just could not get up and go. It was as if I'd been tied in a chair. But the lady was very good. The white lady was very good. She told me, look, you know what? Go and come the next day. So I walked from the High Commission to Ghana Wildlife Society office where my brother used to be. We used to work. And I had to change clothes. And then I went home. So the next day, I went back for the passport. So the lady called me and I went in, and the lady said, it looks like you had a panic attack yesterday. And that was the first time I had put a name to how I felt. I mean, this is panic attack. Your heartbeat racing, your pulse racing. You feel a sense of fear, but there's no obvious danger. There's nothing you can think of that is letting your body and mind go into emergency mode. And I said, what is panic attack? And he says, exactly how my husband behaves. She's got panic attack. Look, the day before when I went through the panic attack, the shame was more than the fear. The shame was more than the fear. But the next day when the lady told me what you went through was panic attack, I was like, okay. I did not only take my passport and my visa away, but I left having a name for how I felt sometimes. But that wasn't the first time I had panic attacks. After that, I remember numerous occasions I would leave school and come home without even getting an exit, and I would go straight to my mom's office and tell my mom, look, there's this deep sense of fear, my heart, and that 2 hours journey to Accra will not stop anything. My pulse rate high, my heart beating. And you know a typical Catholic charismatic woman, and we'll pray and pray and pray and end by saying, we'll bind it into the lake of fire. We'll bind that devil into the lake of fire. And this went on and on and on and on. Sometimes, even school assembly, all I had to do was just walk in and out of the toilets. Once there's crowd, I remember once in Tako, and you go to Tako and you are in your green and khaki, and you feel all so good, and all the girls in the brown and yellow turn up. And you know the school, that school, yes. They turn up and you are ready to talk, and all of a sudden, they are so fearful and your friends are laughing at you. That is the girls you've seen that you are afraid. And so yes, I remember school days, there were all signs of panic attack. But my first panic attack was common entrance. I remember very well. And I would take the liberty of naming somebody who's here, and I'm surprised she's here. So common entrance, you know, my surname is A, and then the next line is B. And we're writing algebra. And after a few minutes, I froze. And I was not going to write this, and I didn't know what was happening. And there was this young, beautiful lady sitting next to me called Enyona Mbado. She's the one sitting there in brown. I'm surprised she's here today. And she went on and on. While she was writing her exam, she went on and calming me down, and literally threatening me that if I fail, they will all leave me back at Christ the King, and so on and so forth. And went on, and then after some time, things settled and passed through. But that was really my first recollection of panic attack. So yes, I've lived with it. And that was my first recollection of panic attacks.
Let me just weigh in before we even proceed. The interesting thing about panic attacks, or the underlying factor in every panic attack, is the emotion of fear. And in as much as fear is necessary for survival, when fear seems excessive, unfortunately, it only becomes detrimental. And I'll try to give you a picture of what happens. Now, from a science perspective, whenever you get into an extreme sense of fear, one of the things that happens is this part of your brain, we call your prefrontal cortex, your forehead, it stops working as it should. So from 100%, it will come to 10. And there's a small device behind your brain called your amygdala, which is primed for fear. So what it does is to take over. So let me give you a scenario. We've all had an experience where maybe you are walking in a dark alley, okay? And then something walks over your shoes. You jump back because in your mind it's a snake. And in our part of the world, snakes are not snakes, you know. They are scent. So you jump back, only to realize later that it was your shoelace. Aha. So that's the thing about what happens when we're engulfed by fear. We become more impulsive because the part of the brain that's activated when you are going through a lot of fear is only primed for survival. So it doesn't care. I mean, there's a lot of fact that shows that people who drown in pools, etc., is because their amygdala kicks in. So they start becoming frantic and they lose all their energy and they go. So calming down is necessary during panic attacks. And I'm happy to hear that when you calm down, at least you could proceed. So that is a powerful thing to know, that you can manually do this. Now, panic attacks for a lot of people seem to be considered as spiritual because they say, but there was nothing wrong. I just suddenly felt like I couldn't do anything. I was sweating. My heart was beating. I peed on myself. All of these doesn't make sense. And usually when you don't know what it is, that in itself becomes a secondary trigger. What is happening? People are doing me. And in our clinics lately, we have people who would come with physical health conditions, and they say they've done every test, but I'm feeling the pain. The doctor say there's nothing wrong. Those are psychological related pains. During COVID, we started doing prophetic healing. So the clients would come, and instead of asking them what is wrong, I tell them what was wrong. You are not sleeping. You are not eating. Yes. I say, go home today at 9 p.m., find a bottle of water, we'll do a ritual. And they were getting healed, interestingly. So as a component, fear is something that is very present whenever it comes to panic attacks. So, Senior, you described something very specific of how you came to understand what the panic attack is. But at the time, did you believe it was a medical condition?
Of course. I mean, you had a mother who was binding it into the lake of fire. So you didn't know what it was, but of course, I didn't think it was medical then. Till the lady named it panic attack. And remember, I mean, that was not now that I could have gone to Google and find out what is panic attack and so on and so forth. So you just kept it as, okay, this is what I went through, hoping that it will not happen again. It never did again, actually. It never did again. I'm not saying it has never come back, but period of time, it never did again. Yes, for a long time. I still go through panic attacks now. I think that it gets worse as I grow up. I still go through panic attacks, a lot of them. in recent times, but my doctor will tell me because I'm not compliant on my medication. So a week or two before going for a checkup, you just get religious on your medication. And I hope my doctor is not listening. Yes, but medication works. It's just that it's like prayer. I liken it to prayer. If you are not in trouble, you don't pray. If you are in trouble, so when you start feeling that you are dropping low and you can't do things and so on and so forth, then you start binging your medication, then you feel better, and then you even forget where it is in your room until your wife reminds you that, "Oh, come home." And then you know that you have to take your medication, yes.
Okay. So at what point did you start either seeking help or getting help? At what point?
Seeking help. I think what you need to know is that I didn't even know what was wrong with me. So how do you go and seek help? Who are you going to talk to? I mean, when you felt down, when you went through a depressive episode, I mean, all you did was work harder, pray harder, stay strong, and pretend you are fine. And that was hard. And remember, these things don't stay they stay for a long time, but they will go. And they will come back, they will go. So once you get yourself into that mood, yes, you start feeling better, then it's fine. So you didn't really know what was wrong with you, but I had to, something also once again tragic happened, and I had no option but to seek help. So my very good friend, Martin Homia, so he came to visit me in London. It was summer of 2005. We were very close from Form 1 through to university. We did our masters together, and he was working with the Foreign Service. So he was on leave, and he came to visit me. And Martin and I were very, very close. At this point, I would acknowledge the presence of High Court, Her Ladyship, and Enyonam Badehu. At that time, that was Martin's girlfriend. So we were. I remember the day we went to buy the promise ring, and Martin asked me to keep it, and we had to lie to Enyonam that we couldn't find the promise ring. But Her Ladyship, sorry, I shouldn't have said this, right? I pray I don't come to your court. Right. But Martin and I were great, and she would tell you we would sleep on one bed. We were very close. So Martin spent summer with me, and I dropped Martin at Heathrow on a Wednesday. Martin got to Accra on a Wednesday evening. Thursday, I had some stuff for my mom, so Martin spent the day with my mom. And Friday, Martin said he was going to see his mother in Cape Coast. And unfortunately, Martin had a tragic car accident and passed. And so this happened on the 5th of June, 2005. And between 5th of June 2005 till I think about the 15th of June, I was down. I mean, this was a huge depression mode. I locked myself in the house. I was not going out. My neighbors could tell that I was in because my car was outside, but my curtains were drawn, and so on and so forth. Fortunately or unfortunately, around that time in the municipality, there had been a murder case. And some two old ladies could swear that they saw two black men around the scene. So my neighbors then reported to the police station that there was this guy here who was behaving awkwardly. So police came to my flat, forced it open, took me to the police station for interrogation. And the interrogation went on for about 4 or 5 days. And eventually they realized that from the time I dropped Martin at Heathrow, that time the murder had happened. So we could not have gone to Heathrow, or we could not have committed the murder before going to Heathrow, and so on and so forth. So They realized that I was not a person of interest anymore. However, my behavior was suspicious because I was not eating, I was not taking anything, I was not talking, I was just blank. So they referred me to the municipal health authorities. They referred me to a psychiatrist. They started the process and whatsoever. And that's how help came. So I was put on my first mental health medication called sertraline. And I don't know what doc will say about sertraline, but sertraline dealt a huge blow to me. Sertraline brought that relief, but physically brought a lot of other health issues to me. But I had no option. I felt better. I could go back to work. So I was on sertraline for give and take about 6 to 8 months. You feel better now, and you've gone back to work. And you live in your life now. You're living your life now. But that was how help came. Mine, for me, mine was not, I'm in trouble, someone is taking me to the hospital to help me, and so on and so forth. There was an issue. I was a person of interest. They realized I was not a person of interest. So, but your behavior is not normal, so this, that. So I was on sertraline. I went off. I relocated to Ghana because I got a job in Ghana. By then I was married. Then, of course, when we got married, my wife and I had to wait for over 5 years to get the gift of the womb. And during that time, depression set in again. And we had done 5 IVFs, 6 IUs, and there was no gift of the womb. And sometimes you'll be woken up by the crying of your wife. Depression hit big time. I mean, this was the mother of all depression. I was just managing director for about 2 or 3 years then. I had to struggle to go to work every morning. It was difficult. There were days that she would drive me to work. You had to keep it up, but it was very, very difficult. We had to go through the process of trying for the gift of the womb. And I don't know those of you who understand that process, but let's just be very crude. You had to, first and foremost, your wife would take 8 to 12 injections. Then you would have to go to the hospital, and they'll put you in a small room, and you have to masturbate. And there is a nurse standing outside the door, and all you do is, once you masturbate, and it's in the whatever is in the small jet, the nurse takes it. All this time, your wife is also lying there with legs open, and I mean, that was a difficult time. That was a difficult time, and depression hit once again.
Let me give a little context about depression. So a lot of the times people would say things like, I'm a little depressed like that. You can't be a little depressed like that. It doesn't work that way. And it's important to understand that you can be sad, but depression is much more severe. You want to, the energy does not exist. That's really one of the things I would like to, but the energy does not exist. And it's profound, especially something we see in women right after they have children. And the common narrative is, are you the only one who has had a child? You want to be pampered. But if it's a postpartum depression, the reality is they simply cannot do it. And so please, if you do see these things, we listen, we don't judge. Let's sometimes notice that, like, Senior was saying, behind the smile was so many different struggles. And just to bring the awareness is also so that we can help such people and not make them feel even worse off. So depression is very different from being sad. If you lose a loved one and you are grieving, you have to grieve. That sadness is necessary. It's warranted. But if it's getting worse progressively, we might start saying maybe a depression is ensuing. And there are so many other things we're looking for. There are things that they used to enjoy that they can no longer enjoy. They might either sleep too much or too little. They may start eating as a coping. You know, sometimes when we eat, they say when you eat, you get happy. Yes, it's true. Because the brain releases a little chemical. But if you have to eat to be happy, not because you are hungry, that is problematic. And then comes all these thoughts of life may be better off without me. So I always encourage people, if you notice a friend or a family member or someone starts to withdraw, we normally try our best to initiate one or two contacts, and then we say, oh, they are being too known, so we let them go. And what their mind tells them is, oh, you are? I was right. I'm a nuisance. Nobody likes me. So let us keep following up on such people who are withdrawn from us. And depression is not normal sadness. It's more extreme. Yes, sir.
Well, yes, so you spoke about self-harm, and this story, where we are now is we used to live in this house, and I was depressed. And I remember one morning, this part was a garage. So it was enclosed, and there was a door straight to the garage. And I remember one morning, the only solution was to end it. So I came in there, and I sparked the car, and I was accelerating for the fumes. And I saw my wife come out. She didn't know what was going on, but she just told the security man, Emsama, da on key no into be a garage door no. And that saved me. So when they opened the garage door, the fumes all had just moved out. It's the reason why I thought I would dedicate this place to having such discussions. Depression set in. After some time, my wife had to speak to my brother about it because I had not gone to work for almost like 2 or 3 weeks. And there's a rooftop upstairs, so every morning I just get up and walk upstairs, and I'll sit there the whole day. And I think she was a bit concerned that one of these days I'll jump down, so she'll come and sit by me the whole day. And then she called my brother, and my brother's friend was Notedua. So Notedua and my brother came here, and Notedua then was a young psychologist then. I'm sure looked at me and thought, it's our case way there. So Notedua arranged that I go and see Sifa Dede, may she rest in peace. And she was fabulous. But at that time, irrespective of the fact that self-harm was crossing my mind all the time, I was also engulfed with a deep sense of death. Deep sense of death. That I could not even sit in any conversation that people would talk about somebody who is dead. And I remember the first thing Sifa Dede told me was, that really is not a bad thing. It will make you plan. It will make you leave a legacy. And so you just before you die, just work hard, leave a legacy. And believe me, those words changed a lot. Because all what he said was, whether you like it or not, it will happen. So why do you waste your time fearing it? Just work. Just work. When it comes, you have a legacy to leave. Just work. But she was fabulous. She realized that it was difficult for me to come to Kolebo because of my work. So she would arrange and meet me after work in her house at Westlands, North Legon. And I'll go there, and after some time, she told me she was not going to charge me
because there was one thing she couldn't put her finger on, and that is, you are clinically depressed, you are on medication, you are very depressed, and my condition is what you call unipolar. So unipolar is, you need to take a pill to bring you up. Some people, naturally, they'll go very up and go very down. Mine is there. But what she couldn't put her finger on is, but you are operating, you are working. And it's interesting. So then he said, no, you need to see a psychiatrist. This is beyond a psychologist. So referred me to Accra Psychiatric Hospital. And for those of you who were not here, that was when I started going to Accra Psychiatric Hospital, and one morning we were sitting there, we went there, we were all dressed up in suits. I was sitting with my wife, and they cleaned up, and there were all these patients there, and one lady walked to me and said, "Doctor, and my wife was sitting next to me, and she said, "Okamuhu." So started going to Accra Psychiatric Hospital. It was really not an easy time, but you had to go. We'll park the car at Holy Spirit Cathedral, and then we'll cross the road, and that's what led me to stop wearing suits to work and everything. And we'll go and you wait and you see, fabulous doctors and nurses. And
my name is Sid Mausi Asafo. I am a clinical psychologist by profession and a lecturer with the University of Ghana Medical School. So
wherever you went is the same person. So it made life easy.
My name is Sid Mausi Asafo.
It looked like they had a dossier of all the supposedly posh mad people in town. So you go to Mission Clinic and the psychiatrist there will tell you, "Oh, I know of you." Then you go to Northridge and they'll tell you, "Oh, you were at Mission Clinic last week." So it made life easy. Actually, it brought in some form of humor. But then I was put on another medication. Started the medication, and once again, you're not compliant again. So depression hits and goes down. Then after waiting for the gift of the womb for a long time, finally, my daughter came, and depression hit again. So I'm not able to carry this baby, and this time, deep sense of fear that when I hold her, she'll fall and she'll die. So I ward myself off. I didn't get involved. I would not get involved. I would normally stand and watch whilst they bath her. I'm afraid whoever is bathing her will kill her, so I will not watch. I will come home when they are all asleep, and I'll look at the cot, and I'd best tap her and go and sleep in the next room. And this went on till the day she turned 2, and my mother forcefully said, "Ende ebutun." And so I held her, and I realized after all, it wasn't that dangerous. It was my mind playing games at me. And this is where sometimes I find the whole depression issue very funny, because it is only when you are out of the depression that you find how silly and stupid sometimes you can be. But of course, it's a mindset. My reality is almost always different from your reality. So that was a reality. My reality was I would not hold my daughter because I fear something would happen. So it was after that third major hit of depression that it has come to stay. It never went. There are good days, there are bad days, but you need to pop a pill every day to operate.
How are we feeling? How are we feeling? We need to breathe exactly what I was going to say, because trying to relate to the story in itself just makes you feel. But don't worry, there's a hopeful end to all of this, which is the best part of why we're here. Now, I just want to say that if you listen to my senior, the seeking help in itself is a process. So it's not like, so what we do find in our field is a lot of people get sick, they come to us, and then once they get better, they forget us. Most of the time, they even liken some of our interventions to malaria. So the client comes in, is given medication, they start to feel better, and then they stop until it hits again. And then they will buy the same medication. But just to take the word out there, it doesn't work that way. To find what works best requires a lot of investigations. So please, if you know anyone who says medications have, even water has side effects, but working with your healthcare professional ensures that all those are mitigated and the help that you get is top notch. Something you said about Dr. Sefadede of blessed memory, I want to also rehash it. She said, oh yes, you go regardless. So just embrace it. And it's the same thing that happens when we're grieving. Notice how when people are grieving and you are saying, don't cry, don't cry, what happens? They cry more. Don't cry. But let them grieve and say, cry. Let it out. They stop at a point. Embracing, or as it were, approach coping seems to give us a much better outcome in comparison to just the avoidance. And it's not your fault, but it happens, and it's good that we know. So let's take a break, and this time we're going to breathe again. We'll start with breathing, and we'll end with writing names with our waist. Yes. According to the International Classification of Disease, current level, the best way to handle a lot of exhaustion is to move. And so I'm going to do a movement sequence for us. Now, my name is very short. It's 4 letters. So if I'm writing Seth, it will be faster. But I know some of your names. So if anyone attempts to bypass the process, I'll call you out. So let's all just try and rise up. Of course, we need to get the muscles and circulation going. And we are going to try and write our names. Even the fact that we are doing it shows. So let's make it a little flexible. So let's all start writing our names. Now, if I find we are not writing, I will bring a word we will spell. So just write your name, the long one, okay? So I'm writing my name. S, start writing. S for me. Oh, yes. E, we're writing small letters for now. E, okay. T, and then H. That's not for you. Write your names. Write your names. Not my name. Write your names. And just because you didn't listen to my instruction, we'll write capital letters now. So everybody's writing their surname in capital letters. Yes. At least I know her ladyship's surname, so I'll be looking. Okay, so let's start capital letters. I won't say anything. Mine, I'm writing. The men, for some reason, the men are showing a particular. Let's go capital letters. S. M. Yes, now you are warranted. You can use the movement. I. The men are happy. L. Okay. E. And S. S. Okay. And now I see that the energy is back. So now that we are flexible, let's continue. Yes. But I think this one, there was no gender balance. People were over enjoying the movement. we didn't hope that we were activating, but anyway, we'll take it from there. So, senior, your story is profound. The way you tell it, from how it started, the triggers that you've come to notice, seeking help and all of that. And I just want to ask a question before we proceed. Even now, the field of mental health still has a lot of stigma. I can only imagine what it was like in those days, because now we have more psychiatrists, more psychologists, more mental health nurses. And one of the things I tell people about destigmatizing the field is to know all the professions. So if you always hear psychiatrists in your mind, then it means but psychologists are mental health professionals. Social workers are mental health professionals. Speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, they all fall within the remit of mental health related challenges. What was the stigma like then, if you can remember?
Honestly, for me, I don't think I faced any major stigma. Maybe because I developed a system to hide it. So I don't think I faced major stigma. I mean, the only stigma I can talk about is there was no conscious effort to create mental health facilities and mental health services as compared to other struggles. There was no. So if that is stigmatization, yes, that is what I feel. I felt, because you'd always have to see a psychiatrist. You have to book 2-3 weeks before, because there were few. You would have to, and they will give you a particular time. And the saddest thing about it is, in 15-20 minutes, literally they are sacking you out of their consulting room, because that whole line waiting. I mean, sometimes when you go to Accra, Northridge Clinic, the line is, people are standing outside. So you can't go and be talking about something that really the doctor doesn't find. And so if that is stigmatization, yes, we faced that a lot. There was no conscious effort to create mental health services around. And for me, it was painful and difficult, because this is me that I can afford it, and I'm even struggling to get it. So what happened? You had to pay top dollar to go to UK every time. So every 3 weeks, 2 weeks, you are sitting in a plane to see a psychiatrist and a psychologist in UK, because you had to work, and you had to feel good, and they had to monitor you, either reduce your medication, lower your medication, because the medication had serious side effects. So it was constant monitoring. And yes, as much as the psychiatrists here were fabulous, I mean, my current psychiatrist I deal with, we've come to the point where I can call her on phone and we can discuss it. I'm not her best patient, because she says I'm not compliant. And the last time she warned me that if I'm not serious about my medication, I shouldn't call her again. I said, Dr. Obwa. Yes. Well. But yes. So yes, with the stigmatization you're talking about, it's a case of availability of service. You still have to, and it was a big struggle. So in the end, it was cheaper for you to see psychiatrists and psychologists outside, but that came at a cost.
Yeah. I'm breathing. But I'm happy to also tell you that mental health has really evolved in Ghana. In fact, we've surpassed many of our neighbors. That's the reality. In terms of specialist psychiatrists, we have over 76. I think 8 more have joined recently. In psychologists, we're over 300 plus. So we're doing well. And I don't know if anybody has visited the Department of Psychiatry in Kotibu lately.
It's beautiful.
We call it stigma reduction through architecture. It would make you feel like you were in the same place they pay top dollar for. So when you come and you are paying top dollar, embrace it. Yes, just embrace it for us.
I mean, it's worth it. It's nice there. You feel a bit comfortable. The people are nice there. You won't get anyone coming to say, doctor, oh, sorry, now I won't come. Because all the doctors are well dressed in suit and everything. So yes, so that's really what I faced. Yeah.
So help is available, and help actually works. Senior, let's proceed again. So you've discussed a number of things, things that happened in childhood that had an impact, that you have moved on with. Now, in my opinion, would you say that who you are presently has been shaped in any way? And this is the fact. We know that what happens in childhood has a significant impact on who you become in future. And I always tell this joke to my students that when I was being born, I should have listened to who was telling my mother to push. Because if you hear push, 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 no, I should have said, no, this is the wrong place. But if I was here, you can do it. Go ahead. Then I'll say, this is the right place to be. Now, it turns out that for children, the most important thing for every child to be able to live a fruitful life is a sense of safety and security. And it can be as minimal as the child cries because they've wet their pants and then, someone rushes to them. As minimal as someone just holds them and then, takes them through some walking. But there are, of course, other children who don't have those kinds of stabilities, unfortunately. And it's funny, there's a lot of research that tells us children who were born and put in homes, who didn't get what we call contact comfort, just someone to carry them for 6 months, have a tendency to not trust the world. And so they always have a fear, like, no, don't trust it. And you mentioned something. You started not to even believe that things could last, like relationships especially, because the trauma of how you experienced it must have been that profound.
Yes, of course. I mean, I still believe that relationships just don't last. I mean, whether it goes up, it will come down. But I do have great relationships. I do have some relationships that have also helped me in my journey with mental health. And my very good friend Kobena Addison would be one person I would single out. There are days that all he will come is for us to eat, because he knows if he doesn't come, I won't eat. And sometimes I feel bad because of me, he started drinking, because when he leaves me, I'll drink the whole bottle. So he has to help me. So Atu and my wife will share with me, because when they leave me, I'll drink the whole bottle. I mean, some relationships have lasted. I mean, some relationships have lasted. But these are relationships that are not in your face. They respect what you go through. If they call you and they don't get you, they will leave you. They will come back another time. I have a good friend, Nanaya Pechum, who would send me a WhatsApp saying, you are in that time of the month, so I will leave you. When you finish, call me. Right. So yes, some relationships do last. But generally in my mind, and that's why I describe myself as I struggle to give back the love that I receive. Sometimes I feel very bad about the number of times Ishmael Yamson would send me messages, and I'm looking at it and my mind is just telling me, reply tomorrow, then tomorrow will come, reply the next day, then 1 or 2 weeks later, I realize that I'm in a good mood and I'll call him, Ismail from Bonichem I. And then he understands me very well, and it was as if nothing has happened, and we move on. So I do understand that some relationships do last. But generally in my mind, love is fragile. Yeah. Generally in my mind, there's nothing like security. You just have to be there waiting for the worst. I mean, you asked me how my early childhood experiences have shaped my adulthood. And there's something I always say, and I'll read it. My survival pattern have been one of my adult personalities. And everything I do, my personality, people will tell you that I'm quick to be missing in action. And he's around, but his phone is off. It is my survival pattern. I must be honest, a lot of times the messages you see, but the strength to even reply those messages, is what, and my wife will always say, "Would you watch him and pen our reply any messages?" And I said, "That's what looks after us." That's what looks after us. I dare not say I have seen it and I will not reply. I just say we need our own. Yes, but yes, my early childhood experiences have shaped my life. Unfortunately, I don't even trust myself. Trust has become a big issue for me. I try hard, very hard to provide that sense of security I saw when I moved to my uncle's house, that prototype of a family structure. I try to provide it for my kids. But I also realized with time, my challenges was affecting my relationship with my kids, my marriage, and everything. So my wife and I decided that we will live apart. So we live apart. She would check in and realize that he's in a good mood. And then she would say, "Well, I've bought a ticket for you. You can come over." Or the next day, there's a surprise. She comes over. And that short period of time is good. I spend time with my kids when I travel and I meet them. We do have dinner together. We go football together. But look, we had to make that very difficult decision that constantly being together was not a good idea for a long-term relationship. And this is what you need to be honest with yourself about. So yes, my challenges have shaped the way I behave. Is it nice living on your own? My very good friend Enyenam says no. It is actually. You are in control of everything. My problems is that when I'm not in control, I feel very, very edgy. And living on your own, you know when you left that thing there, when you come back, it is there. But it's difficult because then it becomes costly. You need to make conscious effort to spend time with family. She needs to come and so on and so forth. But it has improved our relationship. It has improved our relationship. There's no pressure on the relationship. The kids can now shout. I mean, when they were around, they didn't know when to shout. They didn't know when to tease me. They didn't know what mood daddy was in. They would just tiptoe around you because they didn't want to offend you. Now they know they have you for 2-3 weeks. They can do everything they want to do. And even sometimes you cut your travels short because halfway through it, you realize that trouble is coming. So let me leave. So you quickly leave. So yes, I mean, it's shaped my adulthood. It's shaped. You go to the office, and my PA is great. My PA for 17 years, Josephine, is super. I mean, she would, when she realizes that today, and then Dapa, she will lock the door and she would not allow anybody in. And those are the times that you also get focused and you work because there are no distractions and so on and so forth. So yes, those experiences have really, really, really shaped my adult life. But will I exchange it for anything? No, I would not. Depression, anxiety, panic attack has also made me very, very sensitive to other people's struggles. I understand what brokenness is. So I'm very, very conscious about how I deal with people who are broken. It's made me hyper alert. So I know and understand how I feel. So the very minute I feel you are going through something, I feel that I know. I'm very careful in dealing with you. So it's not all that bad. It has its good sides. And any day, any time, I would take depression making me more empathetic. I would take depression making me understand other people. I would take depression letting me take positions of, well, if this will bring peace, let it be. Right, I would take that. But in summary, it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult thing. The sense of hopelessness, the fear it brings on you, the the fact that you cannot even talk about self-harm crossing your mind and you need to scramble for a psychologist. Where is the next psychologist? This is how I'm feeling. It's difficult. And I remember a period of time I studied the easiest way to end it by slitting your wrist. And one day I woke up and I had to go and tattoo on my wrist, "Fear not," because I was telling myself, this will not happen. So I had to tattoo on my wrist, "Fear not." So anytime it crosses my mind, and I'm like, this is the only way I'm going to go, and then I see "Fear not," then I calm down and I realize that. But yes, it's a difficult thing. For me, what has saved me is the fact that my kids did not bargain to come into this world. So under no circumstances will I prematurely leave them. But yes, you live with it daily. It crosses your mind daily.
This is powerful. What I hear in here that's so profound is he found a way to adapt to the pain and to the struggle. And he found a way to make a solution out of the problem. And that's phenomenal. And I can only imagine that a lot of people go through this, and especially when people have mental health challenges, when we interact with them, they'll sometimes blame everything and everybody. I've had lots of people ask me the question, do I have a mental health condition because my mother or my father? And in my mind, I'm asking, but why do you want to know this? They are looking for someone to give it to. But this story is one of resilience, and it's powerful. So I'm going to transition. As a leader, I mean, you've been through all these struggles. Many people do believe, when you have a mental health challenge, you can't achieve much. It's true. There's evidence that suggests that, it impacts the way that, you go through life. But you've gone against the odds. What is it like being a manager, being a board member, like all of these? What is it like leading and still having to privately deal with your mental health struggles?
For me, being productive has helped me. And you try and take your mind off the struggles. But I think it's obvious that leadership is purely about performance. It's not peace. And as long as you put it in your mind that leadership is about performance, and it's only the numbers that can speak, then you have an outlet. So I'm feeling this way, but the numbers are not going that way. So whatever I have to do for the numbers to go that way, I have to do it. You have to pretend many times because a lot of people are looking up to you. You have to come up as a tough guy, but believe me or not, you are the one struggling. You've had a night that sleep didn't come. You've woken up to fear. You are driving, and one turn has brought panic, right? You are not in charge. But leadership also tells you that it's only about performance. It's not peace. So you become the master of compartmentalization. You just have to, in your mind, this is where this is. This is where that is. This is where this is. And so, for now, I'm dealing with work. So you shut off. And you do not shut off because you are not in pain. You are in pain, you are struggling. But to the next person, you've shut off. And you are dealing with what's in front of you. You have to master emotional concealment. And that is what, over the years, I've worked on. You try and compartmentalize everything. You master emotional concealment. And once you do that, people draw strength from you. And once people draw strength from you, people will work for you. People would cover you. My deputy managing director is fabulous. I mean, I think he's one of the earliest people who knew my challenge. And when somebody is being difficult in the office, you say, Chief, it be like you get your things on. And we will laugh about it. Recently, not recently, a couple of days ago, we were having a meeting, and I was like, he was talking about somebody, and I was like, it looks like the difference between myself and that person is I'm on medication and that person is not on medication. He says, I think so. Yeah. So yes, I mean, we found humor in the office. I've made it very clear. There are some of my colleagues here. I've made it very clear that there are days that is no-go area. There are days that are go area. And but there's one person in the office that I respect a lot, and that's my head of sales, Evelyn. Evelyn doesn't care whether you are in a mood or you are not in a mood. She will come. And after some time, just to put her off, you have to do what she wants you to do. And you need a lot more people like that around you. Because if you just let people think that I'm not in a mood, so don't come, nothing gets done. So you do have those who really, by the grace of God, for them, they have to get what they want from you. So she would come. She would come. If she means she has to call you at 6 a.m., at the end of the tour desk, so we train you, she would hit you and hit you and hit you, and you have no option. For those who they hit you 1, 2, you don't respond. They are not helping you because they are allowing you to be in your comfort zone. Right. They are not helping you. So yes, that is for me leadership, and that's why I'm where I am. Yeah. I've been blessed with great people around me. It starts from my home. It starts when I get to the office. I've been blessed with great people around me. So I cannot take the credit alone. I cannot take the credit alone. I may be successful, but I think it's more to do with the people that God has blessed me to have.
So I will talk about social support because you just veered into that angle. But before I do, he mentioned a number of things, and that's what we understand as coping. Now, every human being will at some point employ a coping mechanism one way or the other. The reality is that there are coping mechanisms that are positive and those that are negative. Negative coping mechanisms still do the job. Every coping mechanism does its job. But the problem with the negative coping resources, it brings another problem. So Owaneniba brings other things on. And some of the most simplest ones are the use of drugs and alcohol to numb the pain temporarily. In the modern world is technology. And he did something which is another coping mechanism we call sublimation. So during this period is where he gets hyper-focused to even work. Who's ever been angry? You know, someone unsettles you. You get so angry, you clean the whole house. There you go. And that's what we call sublimation. You change the negative energy to do something positive. And so coping resources are things that we will all adapt at some point. Senior, in terms of support, you've been blessed with a wonderful team, family, I'm sure relatives, and of course, the professionals. Let me talk about us too. True. What I would like to know is, what has been the experience with support? There are a lot of times where you struggle because even as professionals, attempting to engage your client may be seen as you are worrying me too much. And at the same time, it's people who mean well, they want to be supportive, but they don't know how to do it. As a young psychologist, when I graduated, I had to go and break bad news to a mother who had lost twins. And I know I was inexperienced, so I went there, and then the first words that came out of my big mouth were, "The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away." I was a very young psychologist. It's been 17 years now. And she asked me a number of questions. Have you ever carried a pregnancy for 9 months? Have you done it alone where there was no support? Have you struggled to make, when she was done, I was the one needing therapy. But the reality is, I did want to be helpful. And I'm sure you've had a lot of people who still want to be helpful, but the approach has, of course, triggered you in one way or the other. Any experiences like that?
Oh, yes. I mean, my second major depression episode, of course, when I was going through the issue of childbirth, and we're struggling with childbirth, and I dipped very low, and I would go upstairs or sit on these stairs, and I got my relatives coming, and yes, they were coming to give support, but some of the comments, it's a cow crack, Kani and Kuchia, Abazina, Ejume Sika, Kana. I mean, yes, these were people who were here to help. So social support is good, but the way it comes is extremely important. It took my brother to say, look, you know what, my friend is Notedua. Went to see Notedua. Notedua spoke to him that he may be going through this, right? And I had to see. I have been lucky, believe me or not. My social support, majority of my social support has been great. Even today, me talking about this, I don't know if the person knows, but it's Atoko Aminadazi who has been on my case that you need to write your memoirs. You need to write your memoirs, and we've started writing them. We were supposed to learn the memoirs when I was 52 years ago, but every day we postpone it, and it's 2 years down the line. But that is social support. That is somebody who sees your story not as a struggle, but the journalist he is, maybe he sees my story as this could do a good film, you know. So let's write it. But yes, social support has been great. We still get it. The very fact that I will never get out of the woods means that I need that social support. I'm getting it far more now from my teenage kids now. My teenage kids now, I'm getting it far more. They know the things that make me happy. So yesterday, I realized that they recorded the last penalty that Gabriel missed, and they sent it to me. Then I know. And one of them said, "Have you shown it to Uncle Ato?" And they know that I'm very anti-us now. So. Yes, I mean, but yes, as they grow up, they will call you, they will tell you what they are going through, they will tell you their new relationships, and it brings you some comfort. It tells you that the job is not done, but it's still work in progress. I realize that anytime I travel and I'm being picked from the airport, definitely there'll be a Kenny Rogers music in the car, because they know that is what will break the ice. Yes. So, but the people around you should know what triggers you and what actually sends you the wrong way. What actually sends you the wrong way. So I've benefited from social support. I've benefited from social support very much. There are times that at the airport, Yah would meet me with double shot espresso, because any day, anytime, I will do that. And she has an interesting thing she says. She says, coffee in the morning and wine in the evening. In the middle is anything that will make me high.
Okay, well, thank you for talking about that. And I think the lesson for us to also know is that it's okay to allow the people with the struggles to also lead. A lot of the times, we believe we know better than them, or we experience what they're experiencing better than they are experiencing it. And so we want to take the lead. But like he said, people who have also tried to understand from his perspective. And I want to give a shout out to our people joining online. We haven't forgotten you. It's just that you are missing a lot. You are not here. But you have asked the question. That question I was just about to jump into really is earlier. When you described the first time you were experiencing panic attacks, mommy decided, or she thought, and maybe she didn't know, which is the reality, to bind it. And that brings me to the conversation of faith, spirituality, and mental health. Now, in our field of work, a lot of people would tell you that is spiritual. And sometimes you get confused as to whether to allow that or to say, well, I'm not a pastor or an exorcist, so I can't, help. But what has been your experience with relation to faith, spirituality, and mental health?
So I just want to make a disclaimer. This I knew will come up, so I've made a lot of notes on it. It's reconciling faith and my mental health is one of my difficult journeys. Brought up as a Catholic, doing morning mass every day. I also believe that compromised my mental health. There are so many religious doctrines, so many things that we go through that without proper education, proper explanation, has a heavy toll on your mental health. You've been brought up in a certain way, but the realities of life doesn't support that. And so for someone that you overthink, you are hyper alert, some of these things just have a negative toll. So reconciling mental health and faith is one of my very difficult journey for which I'm still plying. Do I pray about my mental health? Absolutely no, I don't pray about my mental health. I don't ask God to take it away. A lot of times, especially panic attack, people will say it's lack of faith, it's spiritual, lack of spiritual attack. It's a spiritual attack, weak prayer life, demonic oppression, all sorts of things. It's not true. This is a complex medical condition. It's a complex, and so to reduce it to spirituality is an insult to those of us who suffer it. Right, it is. The truth about it is that I don't pray for God to take it away, not at all. I do pray. I pray for my family. I pray for my businesses. But most importantly, I pray to God to show gratitude. I have come to a point where I have peace because I know that this will not leave me. I have spent so much in trying to get this thing to go. Before I got to this point, I used to pray a lot about it. I decided I won't pray about it. I do have peace. This will stay with me forever. But I also believe that even in the Bible, there were wounded men. Elijah was wounded. He went through issues. Job was. David and all his psalms of despair and fear was nothing short of mental health. Paul had issues, right? I will not pray that God takes it away. I will not pray that God takes it away. What I will do is, one, I'll let people know that this is not spiritual. This is a complex medical condition. If you seek help, help is available. Medication works, right? That I will do. But finally, I also think that if God can use my strengths to empower and strengthen others, he can also definitely use my struggles and weaknesses to also empower and make somebody else happy. And that's the point I have come to. So reconciling faith and my mental health. If it's about doing all nights, I would rather sleep in my bed with insomnia. I will not pray about my mental health. That's it.
I'm breathing. And I know we all need a break right now again. So we're going to do something, but it starts with taking your phones and making sure that everybody who hasn't checked in, please put up the QR code. We all need to check in. And then afterwards, I'm going to teach us a certain technique. We call it progressive muscle relaxation. It also helps us to calm our system down. Okay, please take your phones, scan the QR code, and then check in for those of us who haven't checked in already. It's very important for us as we go on. And as we check in, I'm going to ask another controversial question. So, Senior, a lot of people have the perception, they say, but you are successful. So, your mental health struggles, is it a big deal? You know, do you think that you struggle more because you are successful?
I would not say I struggle more because I'm successful, but I struggle differently. And that's a fact. As a leader, I cannot show vulnerability. As a leader, I need to be certain. I need to be in control. I need to show strength. And no matter how I feel, I need to put a front to it. I need to be tough. So I struggle differently. I mean, the days that I experienced mental health issues that I was not a leader, I could easily go to somebody and talk to the person. But now you need to be careful about who you are talking to. So I do struggle differently. I wouldn't say I struggle more. I mean, I think the important thing about mental health is it's my reality, and my reality is different from the next person's reality. So I will not sit here and quantify degrees of struggle. But I definitely know that how I feel may be the same. How I cope is definitely different. Absolutely. Right? And for some of us, it's not about this is how I want to cope. It is this is how you should cope because of where you sit. And that becomes more difficult. That becomes more painful. That means that sometimes you are living a double identity life because really you are broken. Really, you really don't want to be here, but you have to be here. I mean, you wake up with hopelessness. You wake up with a lot of fear, but you still have to look in the mirror and tell yourself, just for the people who look up to me, I need to be going. And sometimes you wish the clock would not tick, but the clock is ticking. It's 5 a.m., it goes to 6 a.m., I need to get up and go. And it is that time of the day, that is the difficulty we talk about. It's a different sort of difficulty. It is not a difficulty that is more than somebody else's, because my reality really is different from the next person's reality. So yes, I do suffer differently because I'm a leader.
So regardless, the struggles are there, is what you're trying to say.
Absolutely.
Great. Now, let's do something to calm ourselves down. And we're going to learn how to relax specific muscles of the body. Now, the reality is whenever we feel any sense of worry, we're stressed, our muscles tend to tense up, whether we like it or not. But now it's for us to choose which muscle group we like to tense. I am aiming for the muscles of the face because it allows us to make faces. So we're going to learn how to tense and relax the muscles of the face. How many of you are ready? Okay, so we start with the forehead. And the quickest way to tense the muscle of the forehead is to look at me. Okay? So keep your head aligned to me and attempt to look at the sky without moving your neck. I hope you see what I'm saying. So you're only going to lift your eyes to look at the sky from a straight position, no neck bending, no. So you are looking at me straight, but you are attempting to look at the sky. Let's all start. You feel the tension in your forehead. It's tense, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's painful. And then let it go. And then let it go. Now, notice the difference between the tension and the relaxation. So let's try it again. Look up. It's tense, it's uncomfortable, and then bring your eyes down and feel that relaxation. Now, let's attempt to tense the muscles of the mouth. So everybody is going to give a virtual kiss. And this one is a deep one, so pout your mouth. I would like to look at your faces as you do that. Don't worry about how you look. We all know. So let's go, try that. Make a pout. Push it further and further out as much as you can. Feel the tension. Builds up in the mouth and the jaw, and then allow it to relax again. And breathe as you do that. Breathe. How does it feel? Do you notice the difference between when it's tense and when it's relaxed? Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the neck. So you are going to put your chin into your chest. Right? So let's do that and press it as hard as you can. Put your chin into your chest. Deeper and deeper. And you feel tension build around your neck. And then relax the muscle again. How does it feel? Notice the difference between the tension and the relaxation. That's the most important thing. Now, we'll try again, but this time, with our chin deep into our chest, we're going to attempt to turn gently to the left. So press your chin deep into your chest, and then attempt to turn your head gently to the left, and the other way to the right. Feel the tension build, and let it go. So this is the face and the upper part. These relaxation techniques are like magic, especially when you want to sleep. So the next one I'm going to teach has to do with the arms. So first of all, make a fist. Imagine your worst enemy, in this case, yes. And push your fingers deep down into your palm, as deep as you can. Feel the tension build, and then gradually let it go. Now, let's do it again. Make a fist, push it as hard as you can. And now lift your arms as if you want it to go to your back. Feel the tension build up again. And allow that to slide also. Notice the tension and then notice the relaxation that follows. The reality is, once your brain starts to recognize relaxation, it allows you to what? To calm down. What do you think it would be like to tense the muscles of the stomach? Would you like to know? Hold your breath. If you want to tense them, and I don't like people doing that because it can get tricky, so I would jump to the muscles of the buttocks. So you are going to press your buttocks deep down into your chair. It's either you do that one, or you imagine that you've had some very bad food and your stomach is struggling and you are just about to drop. So you are attempting to physically hold it back. So tighten the entrance. Let's go as hard as you can. Try. Feel that tension build and let it go. Yes. Anything that happens here is normal. Don't worry. You can. Okay? All right. So this is me teaching some of the techniques for tension and relaxation. And you start to yawn a lot when your muscles are starting to feel relaxed. So that's one of the things that you must notice about it. How are we feeling now? Do we still want to write names? Okay. Over to you, senior. And I think we're getting to a place where I think is the most important thing why we're doing this, breaking the stigma by putting out information so that the misconceptions we have can be wiped off. And I think we've done a great job so far. But Sina, I would like to know, what stereotypes about mental health frustrate you the most?
I think it's obvious. That is the work of the devil.
Okay.
It's a spiritual attack. When I advertised that I was doing this, a friend of mine sent me a whole thesis. I should join a prayer group. And they start 5 to 12 midnight, and it's only for 45 minutes. And I sent a message back and I said, I mean, it's not a timing, because definitely that time I will not be asleep. It's the whole idea that when I was young, my mother binded it into the lake of fire and nothing happened. This time, I don't know whether you want to bind it into the lake of sea, but nothing will happen. I mean, it's the whole spiritual connotation being given to mental health. And one biggest put off was once I went to Accra Psychiatric Hospital, and before they started, the nurses said we should pray. And I wanted to walk. I was walking on, and nurses says, only the unpaid result. So yes, it's that whole spiritual connotation. It's the West stigma. I think that it needs to stop, because this is the reason why people are not seeking help. Help is available. This is a complex medical condition. Medication does work. I am a big proponent of medication. When we advertised it, and my doctor saw it and called me and says, put medication adherence on it, because of you, so that you will follow the advice. Yes, it works, but like I likened it, it's like prayer. When you're not in trouble, then you forget about what the medication is. When it hits you, and the way it works is when it starts, you don't know which depth it will go. Some is on the surface and it wears off. Some it will hold you down months on ending. So it's only when you get the signals that you start looking for the medication. But the stigma of is a spiritual attack. And I always think about the fact that how many children are going through what I went through, that they are being described as witch, wizard, lazy, mischievous, doesn't want to do anything. I'm sure there are so many children there. I mean, he doesn't sit in, he's not attentive in class. He's always fidgeting. There's so many children there, and we've labeled it. So as for stigma, you can talk about stigma. But I think the worst one is spiritual. And I ask myself always, you never see billboards of mental health clinics in Accra. But when you are traveling to Kumasi, you see billboards of malams and prophets and all these what do you call it? Occult saying that they cure mental health, they cure mental health. You see that on Accra Kumasi Road, Accra. Yes, but you don't see billboards of proper mental health. Clinics. So,
now that you mentioned, another aspect of the job I do is I research into spirituality and mental health. So as for the signboards, they're everywhere. And so far in my over 15 years of doing this kind of research, there's been only one man of God who's been able to explain to me how you differentiate between spiritual related mental health conditions and physical related. And he said something simple. Say you test the spirit. I said, how do you do that? He says, you say to the person, in the name of Jesus, whatever you are. And if he does that and it doesn't work, it's physical. So he sends the people to the hospital himself. It's fascinating. So this has been, it stayed with me. So I always tell people that if you want to understand in mental health, always remember that the professionals that work in the physical are still servants of God. And when the spiritual side has been treated, you will still need the physical also to be what? To be dealt with. Because that person on the street who's lost consciousness or awareness, they look dirty, infections may come in, etc. That needs to be resolved either ways. I hope that is true. So it is real. Now, we also do know that when it comes to faith, faith is a powerful coping mechanism, especially for people of African descent. And the reason why faith works is it allows us to have closure. The human mind does not like things that are haphazard. So it always attempts to find some reason for something. And naturally, from a place of evolution, we tend to think about the worst case scenarios first. So many of us do what ifs. Who has ever done a what if in the positive? When we do what ifs, they are largely negative. And those negative what ifs become a picture. So another analogy, when you watch movies, why do you respond to the movie? I mean, we know we watch horror, we feel fear. Sometimes thinking the monster will come out of the screen, which won't happen. Or we cry at the end of a movie, knowing well that it's still what? A movie. In part 1, our favorite character will die. Part 2, they'll come back. And we'll cry again and again and again. And that's the power of the human mind. Whatever you think becomes a reality. And that's why perspectives matter so much. So what faith does for a lot of people is, when I cannot explain it, I give it to the faith. And there's closure, and it allows me to feel some level of calm. So, Senior, as I try to conclude all of this, because I mean, I have been touched by so many things you've mentioned. I'm sure that the education is profound. But if you could tell Junior Francis earlier, your earlier self, if you could tell him anything about mental health related challenges, what would you say?
I honestly didn't see this coming, and I honestly think that Junior Francis did not have an opportunity to manage his own issues. If I could tell whoever was managing Junior Francis then what to do, encourage Junior Francis to talk more, to speak about his challenges, to confront his fears. At that age when most of these things were happening, did you have control? You really didn't have much control. But also, it's important Junior Francis understands that some of the things that happen to you is your fault because you comprehended it wrongly. Right? And a classic example is my relationship with my mom. It was at a time where I comprehended it wrongly. Right? But it's also important that during that time, I also saw what I call the prototype of an ideal family in my uncle's house, right? And that has been a long-lasting impression on my mind. For me and my family, every time I go to that picture, right? Yeah. So I will not discount anything. What Junior Francis needs to do was to open up more, talk more, not bottle up things in. And what managers of Junior Francis needed to do was also come up with avenues where he could express how he felt.
It's been 2 hours already, and there's been a lot that's been said, and now I know that we've done our own, but maybe there are burning questions among the audience, online as well. Just raise your hand, we'll get a microphone to you, and you can ask a general question about mental health, or you can ask a question to my senior here. So the floor is open as we try to wrap up the proceedings for the evening. Thank you very much. So does anyone have any burning questions or this? Okay, microphone. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just to say, Kobena, thank you so much.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Nana Oyebampoado.
Yes.
And thank you so much for sharing your story. The bravery, the courage to actually share such a personal story. It's taught us a lot, and we're all very proud of you. So just to say thank you for sharing your story.
I will clap to that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes.
I just hope that her frustration with me when she sends me work to do and she can't find me, she now understands why.
Yes. Kindly just mention your name and your background. We want to also connect. Yes.
My name is Abdullah Sukatu. Yeah, honestly, where you mentioned that you wanted to end it all, I thought the same thing some years ago. But I have some few questions, right? Some of us have been arrested, had an accident, and then been into robberies many times, right? But we never seem to forget it. So I would like to ask, can a man ever forget or recover from depression? And I believe when you were going through a lot, you try to move away from people. So what's the difference between running away from people and then protecting your peace?
I'll take the second part, difference between running away from people and protect. It's a coping mechanism, and it works sometimes, it doesn't work. But sometimes all you want is your peace. And the fact of the matter is it's wrong, because you leave people who care about you wondering what is happening to you. Right. If you could communicate better, you need to communicate better. At least you need to let the people, it's not a good time. Give me some space. The first part is, I would equate it to guilt. We do all live with guilt. And it's how you process guilt. Unfortunately, depression comes with guilt. And the lowest moment, it's all the things that you've done wrong flows back. All the things. During your lowest moment is all you remember is the wrong things you've done. And so guilt will come. How do I manage it? I go the Catholic route. I've confessed. It's done. It's dusted. I can't do much about it. I can't go back to correct it. That's it. But sometimes you need to talk to people. Sometimes you do need to talk to people. You do need to talk to people about your challenges, because your earlier statement is you've been there before and you've considered self-harm. Can somebody come out of depression? At my level, I doubt. Can you control depression? Oh yes, absolutely. You can control depression. You can control depression to the point in which you know the things that will trigger you. And if you tiptoe around those things that trigger you, you can be fine for a very long time. But believe me, even if you're on medication and you expose yourself to the things that trigger you, you will be depressed.
Prevention is better than cure, as they say it. Yes. Before I come there, I just want to give another perspective. So whenever you think about mental health related challenges, I want you also to consider conditions like diabetes and cardiovascular related disorders. When you are giving medication, it manages the symptoms so that you can function. It doesn't particularly take it away. Same thing happens in mental health. So consider it as a pill you need every single day to be able to live a full life. Thank you. There were two hands. Yes, yes, please.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take one here and then we'll come upstairs. Thank you.
My name is Yao Brefu. I'm also Amsu.
Action.
From what Mr. Addison said, I wish I could call him Scratcho. That's his nickname. From what he said, you could have this condition without knowing. It's a bit subtle. Are there any behavioral traits that we could exhibit to let somebody outside know that we are having that situation? For instance, I could be dealing with this, but I don't know. Walking about. Are there any particular things you could observe for me and say, okay, this guy has this, so that I could go talk to somebody?
Okay. All right. I think this question is to me.
It's to me. It's about my baby.
You know, the interesting thing is that I also came with backing. And my senior is here. So I'll let her start. I'll put you on the spot.
So thank you very much. My name is Ama Buedu. I'm a psychiatrist. I would want to, first of all, before I attempt to answer the question, to commend Francis for taking this bold initiative. Mental health actually comes with a lot of stigma. For even as mental health professionals, we are faced with stigma every day.
Yeah.
And you can imagine what the person that seeks mental health care goes through. And so I want to say a very big thank you. It comes with a lot of strength to actually come out to say that this is what I go through every day and this is how I'm going about it. You've actually, tabled almost everything somebody that has a mental health challenge goes through. And the realization is that none of us is immune to mental health challenges. From what he has said, all of us are vulnerable. It's just a little trigger, just a little trigger to push somebody over. Support for Francis and so many other people. However, there's something that we forget, and that is carer burden. Carer burden. So you would realize that if I'm suffering from maybe diabetes, hypertension, I suffer alone. Okay? But someone has a mental health challenge, the people around that individual also go through a lot.
Absolutely.
And therefore, when we are thinking of supporting people with mental health challenges, I would request that we think about the other people around that individual. Because the well-being of the carers directly impacts on the well-being of the individual that we are thinking about. So it's not just that individual, but it's everybody around. There's an example that I always cite. I say that when we think about mental health, we think it's on the other side, and therefore we are not concerned. But God forbid, if I have my mental health challenge, sometimes I hear voices, and you are blessed. One day the voice will tell me to attack you. Okay? I could do just anything, and I would have caused a lot of harm. But it would be said that I am ill, and therefore that harm could have been avoided, but by all of us just being concerned about that individual. So let us be concerned, let us be involved and support people with mental health challenges. So I would try to attempt the question: how would we know somebody has a mental health challenge, or how would I know I am struggling with a mental health challenges? I always say that mental health challenges, or the expressions of mental health challenges, are just exaggerations of our everyday experiences. Exaggerations of our everyday experiences. So for instance, it's okay to be angry, as my boss has said, but when it's extreme, then you know you have a problem. It's okay to be afraid, but extremes of it, there's a problem. It's okay that I am happy, but when I'm exceptionally happy for no apparent reason, that is a challenge. So any deviation, extreme deviation from your basic, okay, especially when it persists and impairs one's functionality, we know that individual, or I can identify that I have a mental health challenge. But when we talk about mental health challenges, there are some times that the individual is aware. At other times, that individual is not aware, lacks insight. So it will take another person to point out or support that individual to access help. And that is where we have to be each other's keeper. We need to be each other's keeper. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And absolutely, just to add on, is when you notice sudden deviations that people demonstrate, which wasn't part of who they used to be. So you'll notice that this person was more the life of the party, suddenly they were drawn. That could also be an indication. So the impairment part is there, but sudden deviations are powerful. For example, in children, sudden deviations could be starting to fight in class or being disrespectful, and then we say this child, but really they can't express. So kids, what they do is to do what? They act out as a way of expressing. I tell you a funny story. As a school counselor, there was a child, brilliant student, everything, but towards the end of the term or towards midterms, he would suddenly just come up to a teacher and say, "You are very foolish." And then once he does that, we'll call the parents, and Daddy will fly from Geneva and come. That was his way of saying, "Daddy, I want to see you." The reality is, if he told Daddy, "I want to see you," Daddy wouldn't come. But if the school called Daddy, "Your son has," he would drop. So yes, notice these kind of sudden changes. It's very out of place. Yes, upstairs. Yes, please.
Yeah, hello.
Yes, sir.
Hi. My name is Ofe. I'm Kobe's brother. He has so many brothers, probably don't know which of the brothers he was talking about, but it could also probably be me. And I'd like to thank the last speaker. I wish I had spoken before her, because this Carabedon thing, it's Israel. And so if this was a movie and you need to know the behind the scenes, what Kobe didn't know was that Norte asked me a series of questions and gave me some assignment. But for social support, what was important was the sincerity. So Kobe was quite sincere. So he gave me the strength. Then I had to take him for a walk, one of the assignments that Norte gave me. We went to Shah Hills. I was in wildlife. So we went to Shah Hills. Then we went to Aqua Safari. Aqua Safari was nothing. It was my friend Afari. I sent him the link if he's watching. And then I said, "Afari, I need to bring Kobe. We're coming for a walk." And he was building Aqua Safari. And he had plans to just do it as vacation homes and sell. So we had gone for a 3-hour walk at Shah Hills. We drove to Ada and went, sat down. He had a meal for us. We spoke. And he told Kobe about his plans and everything. But I'd given Afari the background of why we were there, because we would not go there on a weekday. So then Kobe poured out serious business plans, serious entrepreneurial skills. And Afari got confused. And Afari changed his plans. And then he called me and said, "What's on table? What are you talking about?" And then straight away, I think he had a series of meetings with Kobe. So you talked about how coping mechanisms and other things, probably that's what happened. But it was important that he was quite sincere with me, so it was easy for me to also go on and help and be strong and all that. So, but I thank God that he didn't mention fighting as kids as one of the reasons that caused the problem. Because we used to fight, and I used to be there out of him. And but having understood some of the things that I went through, I think that at the time that he also moved to my uncle's house, that was the time that probably I was also going to secondary school. So I may have had some issues in terms of now I don't have a fighting partner. He also probably has moved away in a structured house. There's no fighting. It might have left some emptiness in him as well, much as I've also gone off to Form 1. So, I mean, this is just to say that as children, we need to really pay attention to all the things that children go through and probably try and fix that. So that's my contribution. But I need a big round of applause for him because he's bold. I always thought I was the bold one, the strong one. But I was the only concise. I mean, you realize I started talking and I'm very weak on that, and I don't like to do this. But then he's bold. Kobe, thank you. You're bold.
Grateful. Thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm going to come in here, but I'd like to make a comment about change. Interestingly, regardless of whether change is positive or negative, it still impacts the mind as stressful. So I always tell the story about what happened before I got married, and most people would have also experienced it. A few weeks to the wedding, there are necessary fights over wedding colors, and and that's because change is coming. Your mind just perceives the fact that after a certain date, I cannot do A, B, C, D. So to test the resolve, you test your partner. So the way, if anyone's here who is not married, or if you want to get out of the wedding color conundrum, your partner asks you for wedding color, say red and black. Yes, because when I did, nobody asked me about wedding colors again, but the wedding came off. So yes, I think there's another question from upstairs, and I'll come to you. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ernestina, and I want to add to those who are commending Kobena for this. This is very, very brave and huge. And I also want to follow up on the last but one speaker when she talks about care burden. There's also the friends burden, because we are not direct carers, and we have our own burdens too, and Kobena doesn't make it easy. So for the past 2 years, he's been posting on his status like what he's doing today, just talking about these things that we don't talk about. So the first feeling is discomfort. Why is he doing this? Why is he saying all of this about himself? Then the burden comes in. What can I do? You ask him, how are you? He won't respond. You say anything, he won't respond. And then you don't know what to do as a friend, because you see your friend pouring out his heart, saying he hasn't slept all night while you snored away. And you want to find out, and he's not saying anything. And we are not sure. I'm not sure whether it's Kobena not answering or responding to messages like he is, or is that what we should do? Are we not supposed to say anything? Then we also become helpless, and I think friends' burden is also very real, and we should have help for friends who have burdens, because we don't know what to do. He wouldn't respond, you don't know what to do, so you don't know whether to. So Kobena, is this very peculiar to you or to our psychiatrists, our experts? What should we do if they are not responding? What are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to meet this with, just pray silently and hope they will be okay, or are we supposed to go on asking, will that trigger anything? So please, the friends who have burdens. Thank you.
I think, Doc, this question is above my pay grade. I can only speak for myself. Absolutely. I don't know if it's general, because I don't have too many madmen friends. I'm the only one. so I can't speak for anyone else. I think the doctor should answer that question.
Okay. So just to, the reality of the situation is, I will use your own example to explain what should be done. And you said to us that you have a friend who would try to reach out once, twice, and then just send you a message and say, I see you are in your period. And so when you are done, reach out. And that is what actually works. When someone's struggling emotionally, it's your presence that matters. So tell the person, I can see you're going through something. I cannot relate. But if you ever need to talk, if you ever need help, and sometimes be careful about the help, because you might say, I'm always, and they will come and say, buy me a G-Wagon, you'll be in trouble. So we would normally, as professionals, localize it to, if you ever want to talk about it, I am available. Sometimes for people who have suicidal ideations, what we do is not just to say we are available, but to take them through a structure. Now, the human mind works better when it has structure. So if you perceive that you are traveling, you could get a flat tire, and you actually do get a flat tire because you processed it ahead of time, you are much better. So we'd say, if I feel like I want to take my life, 1, I will go to a general health facility. 2, I will call my doctor. No, normally we are the last call. I will call my mother, and the number is there. So essentially, you have created a certain problem-solving approach which works. So be available. It has to be on their terms. Don't be forceful. Being forceful only makes them mistrust the process, because during such periods, they already do not trust the process. So that is what we would normally do within the medical setting. Thank you. Yes, please.
Hello, good evening. My name is Justin, and I just want to commend you very much from a father's perspective. I think there's a forum for the young to the old, explaining essentially how a managing director can have this level of burden. And the point, I think for me, the question that comes from a younger perspective is, at what point did you stop wallowing and you turned it into an opportunity to grow? Because you find a lot of people end up going so far deep down that they are unsalvageable. They sometimes then block the opportunities to be saved because they treat depression more as an asset more than, you know, a situation that they essentially can leverage or something that they want to get out of. But it just sounds like from your story, at some point, you saw it more as an opportunity than you did see it as a limitation. When was that moment? And what were your thoughts in that moment towards yourself, towards the people around you? And, you know, especially in finding solutions like living apart from your wife, which is now a solution that is aiding you. How did you now convince yourself that these are now solutions for you?
So, the first time I sought help, I didn't have control. It was by default. And I went through the process and I saw the difference. And of course, I was non-compliant. So for a couple of years, I wouldn't say I was fine, but I could cope. The second time and the major one that I felt very low, I knew the effect of the first therapy and medication. So going back was easy and simple. It would have been much easier if the second hit, my kids were around. Then I didn't have any kids. I think it would have been much easier because for me, it's the reason I live. And I always tell them, you guys didn't bargain to come into this world. You were somewhere and I brought you people. So it's my responsibility to stay alive. I recently, my son asked me, why do you always say survival is courageous? And I told him, Nyameze, waking up and surviving is courageous. Waking up and knowing that I have to live because of you is courage enough, because there are days that if you were not around, I don't think it made sense for me to be around. So when did I decide that I'm going to confront this? I think I had no option. I remember the walk my brother was talking about. People around me supported me. I think my wife called him and said, look, you know what? He's been through it before, and I think he's going down the same line, but this time it's worse. People rallied. So I wouldn't take credit. I would not take credit. I think that people rallied around me. People gave me a reason to live. But the story he spoke about Aqua Safari, so what all of you would know is that I put Aqua Safari together from a bare land to what you see. And that was the conversation that he took me there. We're having a walk. And he wanted to build apartments. And I said, we can do this and we can do that. We can do that from A to Z. So and that was a distraction because then every weekend I was traveling to Ada to make sure things would be in place. And I enjoyed it because there was also an opportunity to get outside Accra and nobody could find me. So I really didn't make that decision. I think that decision came naturally. And it was because there was really no option for me. You had to stay alive.
Yeah. Well, thank you very, very much. Before I move on to our online audience, I also want to say that our QR code is back up. So please, for those of you who are struggling, kindly log on. Do the QR code and then you can check in for us. Now, I have 2 questions from online, so I will read them and then attempt to also answer them as quickly as possible. I am hoping that we can end by 7, because I know also that if we spend too much time, our brains will get tired, and that is not good for our mental health. So online, we have 2 questions. It says, what advice could you give for people who live with people struggling with mental health while keeping their own mental health intact? What coping skills can you share? And then the second question is, I experienced depression, but as a nurse, I was unable to identify it as depression. I got myself engaged in activities that helped me kind of feel better, but these are not activities that from a Christian background feel right. I struggle with that, and I think it's not acting right. But this is what actually held me up. I only fear that I might break again. What is your advice to me? Is the question that we have online. And for the first question about what do you do whilst taking your own, taking care of yourself as you take care of someone who has mental health challenges, take a break. That's the most important thing. There's such a concept called compassion fatigue, where you feel like even when you are taking a break, you are doing something wrong. You feel guilty within that process. But a simple analogy, you cannot pour into a cup when your own cup is what? Is empty. So please take some time for yourself. You'll come back feeling more energetic. If I asked you to hold a phone up like this, and you kept your hand in the same position for hours, at some point it would weigh so much you drop and you can't lift it again. But if you drop your hand for a minute, you could lift it up. So cumulatively, you might be able to do this for more hours than usual. So take a break yourself. I think the nurse online is talking about the fact that they've been engaging in specific coping behaviors that are problematic for them. And initially, I mentioned that any coping mechanism that brings about another challenge is mostly maladaptive. And I think it's time for you to seek someone you can speak to give you an alternate perspective. So that would be what I would say, because we are here online, but we're happy to chat with you later. So I'll come back to the room, but please make sure that you have checked in using the QR codes, and then there'll be a post-evaluation also. I would like everyone to give us feedback. So your ladyship, is it?
Oh, no, not ladyship. Just
sorry.
Enyonam.
I'm only following, I'm following my senior. Okay, yes.
My name is Enyonam, and the love is deep, he knows. We wrote Common Entrance together. So, I think for me, I know how big this is for Kobe. Because you know when you go for, I don't know whether, when you watch movies, you see AA, Alcoholic Anonymous, and you declare yourself.
Yes.
So I'm someone who lives with mental health challenges. And he makes me so proud to be able to stand here and make other people know you can stand in it, declare it, and let people know you are living a full life, still with mental health challenges. I'm a mother of a teenage autistic son, and I work with over 200 mothers of autistic children. So talking about carer fatigue is when I could hear it in his voice, his brother's voice, when he was talking. Apart from you carrying your load, you carry the load of, I have people who have 2, 3, mothers of 3 autistic children. And we don't come from, everybody thinks Ghana is the most wonderful place. It is. We are wonderful people. But we are not the most empathetic people. We don't want pity. We don't want sympathy. We want empathy that moves forward to compassion and moves deeper into kindness. Because we walk it every day. Where with him, he's lucky that it's hidden, so the stigma is hidden. when you're dealing with people where the stigma, we live with, what we have is called hidden disabilities. When you meet a physically challenged person, you can show your empathy because you can see it. With people with hidden disabilities, autism, where it's not seen, and you live with the stigma of mental health, which is not necessarily seen, women being our biggest challenge. Women are not kind to women. We are our biggest judges. We are supposed to understand what it means to have birthed and to have not grieved the child you wish you had had, which is what we live with. A lot of parents with hidden disabilities have not grieved the child they wish they had. And so they have 20-year-olds, 25-year-olds, and they are still wishing, hey, when will the wedding come on?
Absolutely.
When will this? So I'll just ask that as a people, when you meet people and there's something doesn't seem right, there's usually something going on. And judgment is the easiest form of living. What makes us heroes every day is reaching out to another human being and touching another human being's life with just being human. Basic humanity. With love, patience, thinking. We walk past people without seeing. It comes so easily to us. We sit by people every day carrying something. And just that reach out of, I see you, makes a huge difference. And so thank you, Kobe. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Enyunam. And just in the spirit of support and being empathetic, there's a special video that he's unaware of that we're going to play. And he's hearing this for the first time. So please, our technical people, can you put that video? It's a special message for my senior here. Action, Kuti. Yes, I'm still entreating all of us to make sure that we scan the QR code and then we check in. And when the post-evaluation forms also come up, we'd be grateful for your feedback so we can do this. Okay. Surprise! Absolutely.
Kobena, there are days I look at you and wonder how one human
Sound, sound.
still continues to stand.
I want to hear the message.
I have watched you fight battles in silence. The depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and sleepless nights that leaves you staring
while the rest of the world sleeps peacefully. Sometimes the hardest part is watching the man I love smile in public while I see his soul quietly exhausted underneath it all. There are moments when you suddenly go quiet and drift far away in your thoughts. And even when you're sitting beside me, I can feel how lonely the battle inside your mind can become. I have seen fear in your eyes. I have seen nights when your body is tired, but your mind refuses to rest. I have seen the weight of responsibility you carry for your children, your work, your dreams, and the many people who depend on you. And yet, despite everything, you still wake up and try again. That is the part people do not see, the courage it takes for you to simply continue. I need you to know tonight that your life is bigger than your suffering. That even on the days your mind tells you otherwise, you are deeply loved, deeply needed, deeply valued. And if your strength ever fails you, mine will hold you until yours returns. You are fighting the battle alone in life.
Wow. The expression was the exact expression that myself and then the chairperson had when we saw the video. But this is the first time he's seeing the video. And I'm going to invite the chairperson of the debate house to come and give her remarks. But as we do that, for those of us joining us online, I will entreat that you subscribe to our channel and also like, subscribe and like the channel.
I think that it's the first time I've seen this, and am I surprised? No. I'm sitting here because of her. I think that she has seen many nights where I had considered ending it, and she's also comfortable that I'm a place where even if the thoughts come, I will not carry out my fears. And I'll take this opportunity to thank her, not only her, I'll thank my kids. They've been supportive. I know they know that living apart and we meeting periodically is working. We are all happy. And hopefully one day, when they are married and gone, I will have my girlfriend back.
Thank you so much. Let's do it for her. Yes. Thank you so much. So now we have remarks from the chairperson of the debate house, Nanaya.
Hello, good evening, everyone. You notice that I'm in Kente because everybody else decided to dress down. Kobe threatened to wear shorts, so I had to balance the vibe. Okay, so I'd like everybody to take out their phones now. And then like our social media pages. I want to see people liking it before I continue. You haven't seen our links. Oh. Ajwa. Okay, so I think we'll send it to you guys later. I've been asked to say a few things. I won't mention who wrote this for me because I knew that if it wasn't written for me, they knew that I may probably go off script. So good evening, and thank you all for joining us for the Behind the Smile program. On behalf of the Debate House, I'd like to extend our sincere appreciation to our guests, partners, supporters, and everyone for being here and for contributing to such an important conversation. The Debate House is an organization dedicated to creating spaces for thoughtful dialogue, critical thinking, and respectful exchange of ideas. We believe that meaningful conversations help build stronger communities and empower individuals to engage constructively with the issues that matter most. Our work is made possible through corporate sponsorships and private events. We work with a funding model that aligns with our philosophy of maintaining independence while building mutually beneficial partnerships. These partnerships are with organizations that share our commitments to education, engagement, and community development. Before I conclude, I'd like to also introduce the members of our board whose guidance and dedication help shape the direction of the Debate House. Very Reverend Father Ebenezer Akese. Is he here? A scholar, moral theologian, educator, and parish priest of the Christ the King Catholic Church. He's probably online. And Kobena Addison, who we've all heard about inside great detail. Kojo Bumpong. Kojo, where are you? Please come down here. Now. Kojo is an entrepreneur, playwright, columnist, and storyteller. Then there's Madame herself, Abigail Jima, a governance and anti-corruption advisor with extensive international development experience. Yeah. And then there's also Atokwam Nadazi, who is a veteran journalist, editor, lecturer, and media consultant. Come here. I'm the chairman of this board.
Yeah.
Thank you. Please, you may sit down. Yeah. And then the team would like to start putting together a congratulatory message for Emanuela, Dr. Emanuela Amwakon, a pediatric oncologist who won some big award that we want to congratulate her on. But before that, I need to let you know that my claim to fame, apart from being the chairperson of this body, is I'm a pharmacist, a mentor, community healthcare advocate, and more importantly, a champion for women and youth empowerment.
Yeah.
And I have the honor of serving as chair of this board. Thank you very much. So, would like to, the tech team, can you show us? Yes. Thank you.
I'm Ella. Hi, I'm Ella. My children with cancer need a special environment for treatment. Number one, they are small and their immune systems are depleted from all the type of treatments that we need. This will be require a clean environment to receive the treatment. Apart from this receiving treatments, they also require a place where there's fun, very interesting, so that their psychological health is also well taken care of. Children with cancers need a special environment because they need specialized care from nurses, doctors, pharmacists, nutritionists, and psychotherapists. We need this specialized care for these children. And last but not least, they need to be in an environment where they can have some of their family stay with them. This will provide the psychological support that they need throughout their treatment. With this, you know that children with cancer should not receive treatment on a general ward.
Thank you very much, Doc. We are so happy that we can also be affiliated to you. I am hoping that we have all gained some wonderful insights this evening, and more importantly, we've also had an avenue to also express and let out. Yes, as usual, we cannot do this without doing another activity, and this activity has to do with mindful eating. Yes, and the key organs here, the jaw and the tongue. When you take a bite of whatever, as you network, also ask yourself, where is it coming from? Make sure that your mind is following to all the spices, so your mind is present. It's been amazing having you all here. Please do make sure that you fill in the evaluation forms for us, so that we can do more of this and do the best out of it. Thank you all very much. And then I'd like to really appreciate my senior for doing this amazing thing for us. Shall we give him a standing ovation? Shall we? Yes. For us professionals, it's the best thing to have someone tell the story from a lived experience perspective. Thank you for spending your Sunday evening with us. I hope that this has been a blessing to you, and we look forward to more such engagements. Make sure you give enough high fives as you exit to eat, and give your jaw a high five also. You've been wonderful also. Thank you all very much. To our online audience, we appreciate you very much as well. Thank you for joining us. And there are cocktails all around, so please make sure that you enjoy your refreshments outside. Okay. So once you exit, you meet. I've said that severally. Yeah. Okay. All right. Please, as you get your cocktails, make sure that you also fill in the post-evaluation forms for us. Thank you.